Hi everybody, this is SAAD. Some of you may have listened to my last SAAD Truth clip wherein I opined about Serena Williams's antics at the final of the US Open where she lost to Naomi Osaka. Uh, as you might expect, there was some blowback to my having dared to criticize Serena Williams. Because she has ovaries and she's a black woman and therefore she's irreproachable. You cannot criticize her because that makes you apparently a racist and sexist. Most people, of course, were very appreciative of my analysis. I think it has received so far something like 60,000 views on my channel, and the day that I tweeted my opinions on the matter, that day I received more than 2.5 million impressions or views of my tweets that day alone, 2.5 million. And as I said, the great majority were appreciative, some weren't, some of course accuse you of being a bigot and a racist and a sexist and all sorts of other isms. But there was one person in particular that I wanted to mention today because she exactly captures the breathtakingly problematic zeitgeist that we are currently facing with the social justice warrior mob. This person decided that my criticism of Serena Williams was out of bounds. I simply was not allowed to do this. By the way, the name of this person is Emily Kane. Her original account was at MZ or MZ Amily Kane, Cain. So she started tagging my university, ostensibly trying to get me fired because I wasn't allowed as a private individual in a free society to opine about the dreadful antics of Serena Williams. And so she repeatedly tagged my university. Of course, if she had been successful, let's suppose that my university had been equally infested with the cancer of the human spirit that has parasitized this woman, and they said, yeah, he's not allowed to do this, we're going to fire him. Let's suppose she was successful in her attempts. Someone who's been a professor for 25 years, who has my dossier, would be out of a tenured job. Of course, I held a university-wide chair for 10 years. I have a 45-page CV, but all that would have been lost or would not have mattered because a random individual on Twitter who decides that it is out of bounds for me to criticize a public figure, a tennis player, should get me fired. My children should no longer have the capacity to eat because she had been offended. Now, of course, she fell on the wrong person, so as she tried to muster the tsunami of Twitter mobs after me and to try to get me fired at my university, she didn't know who she was dealing with, so I fought back. And when I fought back, of course, that triggered some people to also weigh in. I didn't incite them to weigh in. I didn't try to I didn't contact her employer to try to get her fired. Of course, it is not appropriate at the very least and illegal and criminal to try to actually be engaging in targeted occupational-based harassment because you don't agree with somebody's opinion. But then there was blowback against her position, and so given the execrable, I mean truly vile human being, if we can call her that she is, she then starts deleting her tweets because she realizes that what she thought would be strong support for her, she was going to muster the mob to get me fired because I criticized Serena Williams as a private individual. I wasn't pursuing a professorial function where I was teaching about consumer behavior and decided to go on a tirade against Serena Williams. As a private citizen, on my personal Twitter account, I weighed in on the antics of Serena Williams, and this person thought that I should be fired from my job. So then the tide turned against her. She deleted her tweets, and then when it became even more problematic for her and she couldn't handle that which she tried to do to me was now being flipped on her, but nobody was trying to get her fired as she tried to do to me. She then deleted her whole account. The next day, she contacts me from a new account and says, well, hey, I removed my tweets, and now I kindly ask that you remove any tweets that have my name on them. And I wrote back, you can go and check on my feed. I said, just to summarize what I did, I wrote back and said, well, I'm not going to delete anything. I hope that you have learned a lesson here, and let's move on. She said, well, no, you better remove some stuff, or else, you ready? This is the person who supposedly had used this as a teachable moment to realize what a cretin, what a criminal cretin she was. She decided to threaten me with a defamation lawsuit. Because, bruh, it's not true that I hate Jews. I love Jews. Because, of course, what I did is I flipped the script on her. I said, hey, why is this privileged white woman, because that's what she is, attacking the person of size? I'm not sure if I use person of size in my victimology poker here, but this brown man, Arabic Jew, war refugee. So now she's completely lost. She's completely destabilized. I've used her identity politics game against her. So that which she was trying to use in her virtue signaling to get a professor with my dossier fired because I argued or I criticized the behavior of Serena Williams was now something she could not handle, and she was promising or threatening to sue me. So she attacks me out of nowhere, tries to fire me. It backfires against her. She's the victim. Well, of course, that didn't go well with me. Guess what she did? She deleted her second Twitter account. Just for a moment, think about what that says about this individual. But again, my point is not to, if you like, continue bashing this person, although truly that person should dig deep into their soul to find out what could lead her to behave in such a vindictive, hateful, in such a frivolously diabolical and evil manner. My point in raising this issue is that this is happening to people in the millions. Some people lose their jobs. Rick Mehta, the professor that I mentioned earlier, lost his professorship at Acadia University because in his case, the mob was able to mobilize against him and convince his university to fire him because, at least in their case, they could say, well, some of the, the offenses that he committed were in the pursuit of his role as a professor. He dared to critique the indigenization of the curriculum efforts that are going on all over Canadian universities. He dared to criticize radical feminism and some of its tenets, and that made people feel very unsafe at Acadia, and therefore he was fired. Many people are fired. James Damore was fired at Google for saying stuff that the average 6-year-old knows, but he was fired, and many others are fired in similar ways. Now, many other people are not fired, but they are intimidated sufficiently that they keep quiet. And those people are not just professors. They're people, everyday people who decide to not speak on social media because they're afraid of the mob. They're afraid of this maniacal monster that came after me, hurting their career, whichever career it might be. Therefore, they keep quiet. And so a few intellectual terrorists are able to stop millions of people from speaking their minds in a free society. The 9/11 disaster that happened only took 17 people to cause it. 17 people who've been parasitized by religious fervor decided that it was perfectly moral and correct for them to do the unthinkable. It didn't take 10 million monsters, it took 17 people. Therefore, when people ask me, well, aren't you exaggerating the dangers of these social justice warriors on campus or in public discourse? There's such a small minority. Yes, there might be a minority, but it doesn't take more than a minority to keep millions, hundreds of millions in check. Now, I decided to fight back because she picked the wrong person, because I'll go down fighting till the death against these maniacs. But others don't have the same ability to fight back. They don't have the right personality. They don't have the right platform. They don't have the right combative style. They're not as indignant about such intellectual terrorists as I am. And so therefore they don't fight back. And so this fight that I engaged in the last few days is not only a fight for me, it's a fight for all those who actually watched me engage this person, so that hopefully I can encourage every single person who is being intimidated into silence to fight back. You will not win this battle. We will not win this battle if it is left to only a few people to fight it. In a free society, everyone is entitled to say the nicest things to the meanest things. By the way, what I said about Serena Williams was hardly mean, hardly out of bounds. I was commenting about her outlandish behavior, which many other people have done. And the fact that she is a black woman does not excuse her behavior. You don't somehow get a pass because you have darker skin you and you have ovaries. So the quicker that people who watch this video are emboldened by this message, that they go out and fight for their right to express themselves. Again, remember, I come from the Middle East. I know what it is to not have those freedoms. Don't presume that those freedoms will be here forever. Again, had I lost the battle against this criminal intellectual terrorist, I would be out of a job today. I mean, of course I wasn't going to lose my job at Concordia for commenting about Serena Williams. But the fact that this person felt sufficiently emboldened that she thought it was a possibility that she could get me fired should tell you the reality that we're facing. So don't sit idly. Don't sit on your couch. Don't just upvote this clip and then move on with your day. Share this clip. Fight your own fights. And if you can, certainly consider supporting me on Patreon and PayPal, because as I said, I will never stop speaking the truth, but as you well know, doing so comes with many risks, and it certainly would help if people were to support my efforts. Have a good day, everyone, and don't forget what happened on 9/11, and don't forget what the root cause of it was. Cheers.